Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Thursday morning to you all. I hope you guys are doing awesome out there this morning and having a wonderful start to your day. And I hope everyone's been having a great week out there so far. There is a good bit to get into in this morning's video. And the first thing we'll discuss is today's weather. We'll speak on current conditions, the latest outlooks, watches, warnings, and things like that. And then we'll break down the country section by section. There's many states we'll zoom into, get more detailed on, that had the higher risk of strong to severe storm activity for this afternoon to this evening, and the risk of flash flooding once again. So we'll get very detailed on that. If you're a new viewer, my videos are very long. It's a turn off for some people, but just know you're going to get a lot of good information in these videos. You just got to utilize those timestamps. So if you're a new viewer, a new subscriber, I want to first off start off by saying welcome. You know, we've had some growth on the channel over the last several days, so that's always exciting, but my videos are very long. So like I said, just jump ahead to certain portions of the video that you want to watch, or if you just want to watch the entire video, we certainly appreciate that. After we get done talking about today into tonight's weather, we'll speak on the pattern to come. It's going to continue to be wet. I've had a lot of questions, saying, hey, Mitch, is it going to stop raining? We can't get out in our pool. It's just a rainy pattern for a lot of people, and we're getting a lot of summer showers and storms developing in the afternoon and evening hours. So we'll speak on the pattern, and then we'll give you a brief update on the tropics, and then we'll round off the video with a Bible devotion if you're interested in that. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it, and if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. It gives me an opportunity to pray over, and it gives many others an opportunity to do so too. So let's get rocking and rolling this morning. So what we're looking at this morning at this hour is, we'll start west to east. We got some rain across the Rockies. We even have some severe weather across the northern high plains of like South Dakota. Big area storms kind of broken up. One area more so for the northern half of Minnesota. The other area stretching from southern Minnesota through the heart of Iowa all the way into northern Missouri right now. We even have a separate kind of third area back here in central to eastern sections of Nebraska. Some scattered downpours out there sort of left over from the yesterday evening into the overnight hour kind of convection. So we're getting that this morning. We even got some storms dancing around along the South Carolina coastline. And we do have a lot of rain in southern New England, even some flash flood warnings at this hour. So we will zoom into a lot of these areas that have the potential to see it once again later on this afternoon into this evening. We do have some rain off the southern coastline of Texas, kind of more so off the Mexico coastline though. So that's what's going on right now. Let's continue to move forward here. Watches, warnings, advisories. The heat alerts that we've been seeing in numerous fashions out here across the western U.S. has somewhat kind of diminished a little bit, but we still continue to have heat advisories across northern California. We got excessive heat watches in the burgundy color there. We got extreme heat warnings in this kind of darker shade of purple or pink. Heat advisories in the orange, like I mentioned, and then we got red flag warnings in this hot pink color. We have the severe thunderstorm warnings ongoing with this line of storms moving across the plains. We got some dense fog advisories in the gray. And we continue to have the flood watches up for areas of Virginia into the Delmarva, the Tidewater area, going all the way down to the Sandhills of North Carolina. And we continue to have flood watches up for areas of southern New England like Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and areas of Connecticut. We have ongoing flash flood warnings right now. So that's that. As far as the Storm Prediction Center outlook, they actually dropped a slight risk. They knocked it back down a category to a marginal risk across areas of the southeast. So, yesterday they had a slight risk for today. Now just a marginal risk. But, if you live in areas, I'll zoom into this region. If you live in areas from Virginia down to Georgia, pretty much all the Carolinas included, level 1 out of 5 risk of severe weather. This is driven off a risk of some small hail, some gusty winds, and of course flash flooding, which we'll speak on here in a second. A secondary area stretching across the interior New England region, going from Maine all the way through Vermont, New Hampshire, sections of it, right through the heart of New York State, all the way into western PA, and it does include sections of Ohio. But the higher risk of severe weather today, and I'm talking about like hail, even a tornado risk and damaging winds, is across the middle of the country. We have the marginal risk that goes all the way up through the Dakotas and northern areas of Minnesota. It's kind of weird, the shape of it. It gets all the way down to New Mexico, includes areas of the Panhandle of Texas and Oklahoma, all of eastern Colorado, pretty much the heart of the country. But we do have a pretty large level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather, a slight risk. This is in the yellow. This goes from Dodge City all the way up to Lincoln, Omaha. Many areas are included in this. So if you live in this region, Des Moines, included in this, Sioux City, level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather. What's driving this? There is a 2% risk of a tornado, but it's displaced from the higher severe weather threat. It's included in it somewhat, like Omaha. You get the slight risk and the 2% risk of a tornado, but the higher tornado risk is actually stretched across areas of the marginal risk. So, Rochester over to Dubuque, Des Moines, Davenport, Cedar Rapids, Lincoln, Omaha, Sioux City, you guys have that 2% risk of a tornado. Now, the wind threat, it gets back over to slight risk, which is really what's driving it. If you live in that yellow area, a 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour. And then the hail threat, a little bit smaller, tucked inside this slight risk in that yellow area. That is a 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. So that's that. Now, the risk of flash flooding. Listen, this has obviously been a huge topic in the weather world over the last several days. It obviously started with what happened in Texas. Awful situation. I think over 120 people have now, it's been confirmed, have lost their lives, and there's still like many more that's missing. So the number will probably go up. It's just an awful situation. So flash flooding is definitely a huge topic, and news networks are obviously, they're latching on to every situation. Even, if there's just a slight bit of extra water on the highways, they are going to blast that into your face. So I will say this, flash flooding is obviously, it's quite obvious. It's happening a lot right now, right? We can't ignore that fact. But I will say this, don't get so caught up in things. And, I know some of y'all are hearing me say this, and you're like, I'm going to believe what I want to believe. But the news networks are also taking advantage, I think, personally, of what happened in Texas, and they're just going to blast it all over the place. So they're going to definitely just show every single situation that has flash flooding. But I want you guys to know that flash flood warnings happen every single day in the summer, just about. There's records to back that up. They happen every single day. But obviously things are sensitive right now, and I know I've said obviously a million times for obvious reasons. So I just want to throw that out there, and we'll leave it at that. But there is a slight risk of flash flooding in the yellow. I don't even know if that's what they actually, they call it that. I always say that. But in the yellow region, 15% risk of flash flood guidance being exceeded within 25 miles in a given location. We'll zoom in. That's pretty much the entire state of Iowa. Gets into Madison, Wisconsin, Davenport, including this, all the way back into Lincoln, Omaha. So 15% risk of flash flooding there. But of course, this has been an area that's seen a lot of flash flooding over the last week, starting from Chantal last week, from Columbia up to Charlotte, Rock Hill, over to Fayetteville, the Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill area. This area had more flooding last night. Greensboro, Winston-Salem. You guys have a risk of flash flooding, a 15% risk. Danville, Lynchburg, Richmond, Petersburg, up to Charlottesville. 15% risk of flash flooding in this area for today. So be aware of that. These storms won't have a whole lot of motion with them, so they'll kind of form and just drop 1 to 2 inches of rain really quick on you guys. And listen, 1 to 2 inches of rain doesn't sound like a lot, but when it falls on you in about 15 to 30 minutes, that can cause flash flooding. Ground just cannot absorb that fast enough. And I forgot, there is a risk of flash flooding up here in areas of southern New England, sections of southeast Mass, and northern Rhode Island, very small section of Connecticut here. So let's break down the southeast first. So getting this in motion, we start to get this into, say, this afternoon. This is around 2 to 3 o'clock, and I'm going to zoom into some of these states. We do have these thunderstorms forming here in the western areas of North Carolina, western areas of Virginia, some pop-up activity in central South Carolina, storms back in Georgia, eastern Tennessee, and then they become widespread in nature, as you can tell, across the Carolinas, Georgia, southeast Virginia. Maybe it's not as much storm activity for like middle to central to areas of western Virginia, but certainly could still get a lot of storm activity down up there too. Storms showing up along the Georgia-Florida line, some storms dancing around in Florida. But Georgia up into the Carolinas, I think, is going to be the highlight area in the southeast today. So let's go on and zoom into this region. Let's break down Georgia and South Carolina first. Timestamp is up here, okay? But I'm going to go over this as we go. So we get to about lunchtime. We're probably already going to have some pop-up storms forming, even though this doesn't show much. But I bet we will. 2 p.m., 3 p.m. We got some scattered downpours. These storms are going to unload a lot of rain, just like any storm in the summer does. Okay, these storms down here forming in Georgia, very isolated at first. We already got some storms forming between Augusta and Columbia. And listen, this model is not going to hit the nail on the head. We know that. It's just guidance. Well, we get into this afternoon around 5 p.m., heading home from work, whatever you're doing out there. We're getting a lot of scattered storm activity across the state of Georgia. It could be anywhere. I mean, it could be happening anywhere. Obviously, it's not going to be raining in the entire state, but you can tell that this is just scattered everywhere. We got some storms forming in the low country of South Carolina, the upstate of South Carolina, and then we take it to about 8 p.m. Storm action still ongoing in areas of Georgia. Could be anywhere. I mean, it really looks just scattered and smothered out there, right? Waffle House reference. I would love some Waffle House right now. But northern areas of South Carolina, we got some storms up here. I mean, they're just scattered everywhere. Quite literally the definition of scattered, right? And then we get into 10 p.m. And listen, we're still going to have an ongoing storm threat. I mean, look at the corridor between Columbia and Florence, getting a lot of storm activity at around 10 o'clock tonight if this is the way it happens. And then things should begin to calm down after midnight tonight. So how much rainfall is the Weather Prediction Center going for between now and about 8 p.m. tonight? And listen, I think more rain will be falling after this too. There's pockets in the purple. That's over an inch of rain. Macon going for around an inch. Atlanta, Columbia, they like the idea of around an inch or so of rain. Rock Hill around an inch. But, these pockets where you see the purple, this is where more rain could fall, over an inch. Now, for whatever reason, the 48-hour thing is not up. So we're actually going to take this to about 8 p.m. Saturday. So this kind of gets beyond, obviously, today's forecast. But you can tell, a few inches of rain is likely across areas of Georgia and South Carolina over the next couple days. Now, we head on up to North Carolina and Virginia. So we start off around this morning. We take it to about midday. Already some scattered downpours. We could get some flash flood warnings popping off in southern West Virginia. We had it yesterday, even a couple tornado warnings. And then we get into about 3 p.m. And listen, it's called lee troughing. Basically, area of low pressure kind of is there off the eastern slopes of the mountains. And we'll dive into that one day. Brad Panovich made an awesome post about that a couple days ago. And basically these storms, guys, I mean, it happens even on like very low storm chance days. These storms form off the mountains of, the Carolinas up into Virginia. And then they drift west to east. So these storms almost always start off in the mountains early in the afternoon. And once again, today will be no different. Asheville down to Hendersonville, over to Hickory, up to Boone, which is more so right here, but up to Roanoke, Withville. Storms will be possible early this afternoon, and then we have to see how this organizes, and more storm action will develop. If you're vacationing in the eastern sections of North Carolina, the Outer Banks, Norfolk, Virginia Beach, even up to Salisbury here, these storms will fire probably late afternoon. This is around 6 p.m. We got scattered storms in northern South Carolina, across western and central North Carolina, kind of Raleigh to Greenville to Fayetteville. Doesn't look that high end as far as severe weather activity, but these storms will eventually drift into that area later this evening. So this is around 9 p.m. Looks like it begins to taper off maybe in the western areas of North Carolina. Eastern Tennessee will get some storms also. I know I've been kind of leaving you guys hanging lately, but it just seems like more of the high impact weather has been more into the Carolinas. But you guys will see some storms probably early this afternoon. And then we get into 10 p.m. Whatever's left over of this will probably be trailing off and be the most intense, probably in the eastern areas of North Carolina, southeast Virginia. See all this storm activity here. And then we get into 11 midnight, and then there's still going to be some rain in eastern areas of North Carolina even after midnight tonight. So once again, we will zoom into how much rainfall is predicted between now and 8 p.m. Tonight. That's some heavy rain, guys. And these areas, between Fayetteville up to Greensboro to Raleigh, this corridor right here has seen a lot of rain between Chantal and just the other days that's just featured a lot of storm activity. But this is just between now and 8 p.m., tonight. There's a corridor between Greensboro up to Danville, Raleigh, down to Fayetteville, to Charlotte, Asheville, basically all of the triad in central areas of North Carolina. 1 to as much as 3 inches of rain is possible. In that purple area here, That's 2 to 3 inches of rain being possible. Richmond can get a lot of rain too. So, model guidance really isn't reflecting what's being shown here a lot. Let's see if there's any updated information. Not really. So if we actually look at the next 72 hours, guys, between now and about 8 p.m. Saturday, man, it just wash out. We're going to continue to get this atmospheric pattern that supports just a lot of storm activity. So we get stretches like this every summer, guys. I know people don't want to believe that, but it's true. But it's being glorified on the news right now. I'm telling you. Try not to get my own thoughts and opinions mixed in these videos, but I try to look at things from both vantage points, guys. So just always remember that. Love you guys. But this is definitely a soaking pattern right now, soaking summer pattern. So moving past that, let's look at the Northeast. Starting off this morning, her model picking up pretty well of all this, heavy rain activity across the southern New England area. But as we start to take it into about midday, a couple things happen. We continue to have this rain activity here across areas of, I would say the coastal areas of southern New England. Long Island will be a rainy day. We'll get some storms here in the southern half of New Jersey. But if you look at this corridor up here in southern and the interior sections of New England, we're going to get some storm activity. Could get some storms in northeast Ohio, northwest PA, western areas of New York. But I want to zoom into this area right here. These storms look like they could be more widespread, pack more of a punch today. You see all this storm activity in Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, down to Mass as we get later into this evening. Let's zoom into that area. So this is Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont included into this. We start to get into this afternoon. You can see the storms firing here in Vermont, New Hampshire. They could be anywhere. This model is not going to nail the exact location of these storms, guys. Always remember that. 4 p.m., 5 p.m., a lot of storm activity in Vermont, New Hampshire. We start to get into 7 p.m. We got a lot of storm action in Vermont, New Hampshire still. Some storms riding up through western Maine. And then we start to get into 9 p.m., 10 p.m., 11 p.m., midnight tonight. Some scattered downpours. And pretty much Vermont, New Hampshire looks to be just a highlight area, especially the northern areas of these states. I wouldn't be surprised if they increase the flash flooding risk for these areas. And in fact, I'm going to show you how much rainfall. I'm actually going to show you how much rainfall the HRRR model is showing for this area for today. I'm not sure if I'm going to buy, what some of this other guidance is showing. But listen, I just want to make it known that this is between now and about this time tomorrow morning. A lot of rain can fall in certain areas of, especially New Hampshire and northern Vermont today. I mean, some of this guidance is picking up on 2, 3, 4 inches of rain. So we could get a lot of storm activity in this area. The Weather Prediction Center is calling for, some pockets of over 2 inches of rain. Well, over an inch of rain, but it's not showing much where the HRRR model is picking up on 2 to 4 inches of rain. So now we'll drop it down to southern New England. Starting off this morning, we're going to get some lingering downpour shower activity across Long Island, southern New England. And then we can get some additional storms that form, hit like the Worcester area near Boston later this evening. So be aware of that. There is a slight risk of excessive rainfall. And we'll look at what the Weather Prediction Center is showing for this area between now and about 8 p.m. tonight. And going for a few inches of rain in southeast Mass. But there's also the possibility for a lot of rain in southern areas of New Jersey also. So definitely just continues to be a soaker over the next 24 hours in this area. So now the south central U.S., it'll be a pretty quiet weather day. An opportunity to continue to recover here in Texas with Kerrville, flooding. There's going to be some storms popping off the Rockies in eastern Colorado and northeast sections of New Mexico. You see the storms here with the system firing off. So these could produce some small hail, some gusty winds, and then this action will make it all the way into the panhandle of Oklahoma, Texas, and we'll continue to get these storms crossing Kansas throughout the overnight hours, and then they'll diminish. After that, I got the hiccups. Kansas, though, a closer look, you guys do have a slight and marginal risk for certain areas of the state. We get into the evening hours around 7 p.m. We got some strong to severe storms from Colby down to Liberal, Garden City. These eventually will drift into Dodge City. And I think by the time we get into the central into the central areas of Kansas and late in the evening, 11 p.m. I think these storms will begin to lose some intensity, but they could still produce a lot of heavy rain and still some storm activity. So just be aware of that. South Central U.S. We'll spend a little time here. Starting off this morning, the HER model is not doing well with storms up here in northern Minnesota. I mean, it is whiffing on that pretty hard. But we'll continue to move this forward. And we get into the afternoon hours. Some leftover energy trails off into northern Illinois, so Rockford and just any communities in northern Illinois, be mindful of some storms today. And then this action could continue to strengthen in southwest Wisconsin, so some storms possible here. And then we have to watch these storms in Nebraska that's moving through. And then this action will move into Iowa. And we could have a flash flooding situation that develops there. And then wake up tomorrow morning to a lot of rainfall happening across southern areas of Wisconsin, northern Illinois, southern areas of lower Michigan also. But as always, just a closer look at these states. Nebraska. And then we get into about, here it is, bang, 5 p.m. Intense storms look possible. North Platte, Kearney, Grand Island, north of this area and along this corridor. You can see those look like some intense storms, damaging winds, large hail, and even a brief tornado possible, some of these. And this will continue just to kind of cluster up. We get to 8 p.m. Storms continue to be possible in the eastern half of Nebraska with this line here. Kearney, more storms fire here. Could have some more areas of storms ongoing in western Nebraska, but it doesn't look like they survive. But some heavy rain will continue, storm activity for the eastern sections of the state. And this action will move into Lincoln, Omaha, around or an hour before or after midnight tonight. Just a lot of heavy rain sort of dancing around this area of eastern Nebraska after midnight tonight. So rainfall between now and the next 36 or so hours doesn't show. So we'll take it out 72 hours. It's between now and Saturday evening. A lot of rainfall, especially for the eastern area of the state, 1 to 2 inches of rain. So, and we look at Iowa. We'll continue to deal with some storms in the eastern areas of the state through early afternoon. So be aware of those. And then you might get a little bit of a lull. Now, it's around 8 p.m. Shows a supercell trying to be there, around or just south of Waterloo. So I'd be careful with a couple supercells that try to form here. They could produce a tornado. It's definitely not prime tornado season right now, but we can still get them in July. But we get to 11 p.m. Here's the storms. An additional batch of storms moving into western Iowa later tonight. It's 11 p.m. Midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. You see storms blasting through the western to central areas of Iowa and then getting into the northern areas of Iowa. A lot of heavy rain. This is 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m. We're still going to be dealing with some rain out there. But rainfall between now and the next 72 hours here in this area, 48 hours, 48 to 60 hours, a lot of rain could fall. If you live in these red areas, wherever 2, 3, maybe 4 inches of rain could fall. So the entire state of Iowa will most likely get measurable rain and a good bit of rain between now and the early portion of the weekend. And just to kind of show some areas I left off here, like Wisconsin and Illinois. These storms, just kind of a look overnight. Just wanted to kind of breeze through that really fast. But anyways, you're looking at the western U.S. We've already talked about Colorado. Some storms will fire off Colorado, the Rockies. We're going to get some strong to severe storms probably along the South Dakota, Nebraska, Wyoming state line this afternoon. You can see the storms in this region. This will kind of be where the origins of the storms will be. But anyways, the rest of the western U.S. remains quiet. Some showers will develop later tonight along some sort of frontal boundary in eastern areas of Montana, but still pretty quiet out there. Just about the entire eastern U.S. is around average, maybe a degree or two below or above average because of cloud cover or a lack of cloud cover. But the immediate eastern U.S., I mean, it's some areas will actually be below average temperature-wise, but I mean, there's nothing really one way or the other temperature-wise. And then the central to western U.S., hot across the middle of the country, blistering hot across the southwest. It's typical stuff this time of year. But we move into tomorrow's severe weather outlook. There is a slight risk right here in the middle of the country across areas in the Midwest. This includes northwestern areas of Illinois, the southern areas of Iowa. This gets into northern areas of Missouri, into areas of Nebraska and Kansas. Level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather there. The tornado threat is at a 2% risk in this region. The wind threat, 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour. And the hail threat is at a 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. But I do want to note, marginal risk extends across a good chunk of the country. Level 1 out of 5 risk of severe weather gets all the way into New England, drops all the way down to the Mid-Atlantic and portions of the Southeast. So large area of the country runs a risk of some of these storms being strong to severe. Day 3, we got a level 1 out of 5 risk of severe weather up here across pretty much all of the upper Midwest. Well, I would say all of the Great Lakes region. So for my friends here, Saturday, this is for Saturday, you got a risk of some of these storms being strong to severe. And then we have a risk of strong to severe storms in areas of Colorado, down to New Mexico, Oklahoma, into Texas. So anything after this, haven't even looked, to be honest, and there's nothing really highlighted beyond this. But taking a look at the excessive rainfall, spent a couple minutes on this. Large area of the upper Midwest down into the plains runs a 15% risk of flash flood guidance being exceeded. So, this goes from Minnesota down to Wisconsin, down to Iowa, areas of Illinois, drops all the way down to Missouri, Kansas, all the way into a small section of Oklahoma. So 15% risk of flash flood guidance being exceeded. The concerning thing is when we get into day 3, which is for Saturday, the risk of flash flooding begins to drop back down into Texas. We don't want to see this. So it includes a large section of the state of Texas. It does include Kerrville here. Let's see if we can find it here on this map. Kerrville, where are you at? I'm sure somebody's like screaming on this, yelling at the screen, saying, "Mitch, it's right there in front of your face." Anyways, I think it's kind of into the, yeah, there it is, right there. So you guys are right technically in the 5% risk of flash flooding. So you're right on the fringe of a lot of heavy rainfall, in my opinion. But we'll continue to watch. And then day 3, there is no 15% risk. So what's driving the pattern coming up? And I know this is going to look the resolution of this is not going to be the best. But I'm just going to choose tropical tidbits here. And we're going to start off Friday afternoon. You're going to just see a lot of splotches of yellow, splashes of a lot of areas of green, splashes of yellow, orange, and red on your screen. Just think of this as shower and storm activity. And each time you get into the afternoon hours, you see a lot of it fire. So we're getting a lot of it here. Saturday, we're getting into Sunday. You see action across the southern tier of the country in the eastern U.S. We get into Monday, a lot of action across the southeast. In the eastern U.S. once again, we get into next Tuesday. Just a lot of the country continues to deal with a lot of shower and storm activity. Now you ask, well, why is that? And I would say, if you look at this, this is the thing that will throw some people for a loop. The blues on your screen and the whites on your screen are typically lower pressure, especially the blues. The more blue you see on your screen, the stronger that low pressure, the deeper that low pressure. Now, the warmer colors you see, like the salmon, the reds, it's a ridge of high pressure. Typically, you see that more on your screen, above average temperatures, less precipitation. You see more white and blue on your screen with this. It's just more lower pressure, more instability, and the signs of some sort of upper trough storm system, short wave in place. This is what generates the lift for a ton of shower and storm activity, and it's July. So there's no point in speaking on moisture as far as dew points, because this time of the year, most of the country, the atmosphere supports shower and storm activity, unless you live in the Rockies points west, where you're just higher up in elevation, therefore you got dry air. So we take it into Saturday. Big chunk of the country is in the white or blue. Lower pressure, stormy weather. And you can see these little indentions here in this line, these little isobars. See how they're wiggling like this? This is little pieces of energy in the atmosphere. And this just continues. Now, as we start to get into next week, maybe some ridging over southeast Canada and the northeast, upper Midwest, Great Lakes region could calm down storms for a period. But then we get another big trough that drops down about a week from about 6 days from now across the western U.S. This will probably generate some more elevated severe weather risk across the upper portion of the country, but it'll also just bring more unsettled weather across the middle of the country. And here comes another system as we get past 10 days. So there's just a lot of systems rolling through the country. You don't have any persistent ridging sort of just scorching you to death and you staying dry. The atmosphere has and will continue to support a very unsettled pattern. If we look at precipitation forecasts from the Weather Prediction Center between now and the next week, it's a very large look at things, obviously. But anywhere where you see the purple, that's where over an inch of rain is forecast between now and the next week or so. Anywhere where you see the reds, that's where over 2 inches of rain, maybe 2 to 3 inches of rain is forecast. So you can see hot spot right here is obviously in the middle of the country. Kerrville kind of right down here. I know I keep mentioning it, but we need to mention you guys. You guys are devastated down there. Looks like the heaviest rainfall could remain north of your area, but the southeast looks like a soaker. Eastern U.S., plentiful rain. And just taking a closer look at some of these individual areas. Here's the south central U.S. So it does look like there's a sharp cutoff of the rain. These areas down here that really don't need the rain look to maybe miss it to the north. Let's hope. But, looking at the deep south between now and the next week, a lot of rain. A lot of this will fall over the next couple of days. And then going up the eastern seaboard here. So, anyways, something to back up this also is the Climate Prediction Center, and this is between the 6 to 10 day time frame. So this is between the 15th and the 19th. And the areas where you see the green, that's where you have a chances of above average precipitation. It's lighter green, 33% chance of that, 40% in the darker green, and the really dark green here, the more green, if you will, 50% chance of precipitation being above normal in this time frame. And because you have so many frequent storm systems moving through, it's going to keep these areas below average temperature wise. Now I'm not talking about necessarily a nice fall crisp day down in Texas, but you're kind of going to have to deal with slightly above average temperatures still in the eastern U.S. Middle of the country though, going for below average temperatures with persistent systems dropping down into the middle of the country. Western U.S., above average temperatures for sure. So continuing to move forward here, I do want to show you also the precipitation outlook for the 8 to 14 day range. And most of the southern tier of the country looks to stay, at least have a chance of above average precipitation. Update on the tropics, not going to spend long on this. No tropical activity expected over the next 7 days. But, the Climate Prediction Center still says, hey, in this area of the Gulf, there's a 20% chance, kind of in the middle, for the middle portion of the month, of tropical development. So it has that area highlighted. But if we look at the latest GFS, starting off around early next week, this is the 850 millibar Vort map. It does show a lower level spin right here developing in the northeast areas of the Gulf. And this sort of cruises any which way across the Gulf. And this particular run, it doesn't really stay over the Gulf. It actually goes inland to Georgia and the Carolinas. So the latest GFS not showing much. It's actually backed off. And the Euro guys, it's not showing anything. So I would say for right now, model guidance is sort of backed off. But it did the same thing with Chantal. And then we ended up getting Chantal. So folks, that's all I got. I know it's only like a 60-second update on the tropics. But I don't want to overtalk something that isn't worth speaking a ton on. But let's do a Bible devotion here, and then we'll be on our way. So let me get this here. Sorry for leaving you guys hanging over the last couple of days, too. I think I went 2 days straight without doing one. But this morning, we're in Proverbs. Let me slow it down. Proverbs chapter 16, verse 9. Proverbs chapter 16, verse 9 says, "A person's heart plans his way, but the Lord determines his steps." So I wrote a couple things. I said, we have many plans and goals for our lives, right? We all can agree with that. God's plans ultimately direct our lives. The more we go against God's plans, the more it'll set us back, even when it doesn't feel like it is, initially. Our earthly desires can blind us. And I put, find a balance between planning and setting goals and also trusting in God's guidance and plan for your life. We always are talking about God's will in your life. I'm huge on that. And it really should be more of an important thing in people's lives, in my opinion. So, and I'll read that again. Find a balance between planning and setting goals and also trusting in God's guidance. Now, you might ask, well, how do I know that my plans match up with God's plan on my life? And I would say the quick answer would be pray. Pray, talk to God daily, not just once a week, daily, every day, maybe every hour if you need to. Do it on the way to work. Discuss, this is what I do. Just talk to him about what your plans are, and ask for God's will on your plans on your life, and he'll answer you. He'll kind of lean you one way or the other. And the problems emerge when God God's not always going to necessarily clearly tell you. Sometimes I think God wants you to marinate in it a little bit, right? He wants you to think about it. He wants you to extract the learning lesson out of the situation. I don't think God has everything designed where he's going to give you just immediate gratification with an answer, right? I think we really have to. He wants us to seek him, continuously seek him, and seek for his guidance, right? So, it's just going to take praying. And the thing that people go wrong with is that they pray. They get an obvious kind of push to one side of the fence, that one side of the fence being God's will, right? And then you say, man, I don't want to go that way. And you go your own way, and it might seem fine off the dot, and then you realize hiccups happen, more and more things kind of prevent you from getting to this, that, and the other, and you just run through problem after problem. And is that God's? Is that because you didn't follow God's will? It could be, but I will also say that sometimes you will make the decision to follow God's guidance, and I would say you always need to, and you're still going to hit those hiccups. So just because you're a follower of Christ, always remember, it doesn't. For example, if you get saved, which is awesome, by the way, and you baptize and all that, and you really think that everything's just going to be easy going after that, I'm here to tell you that's not the truth. You still go through many, many, many things in life. So I'll lead it off with this and an example in my own life. One thing that I like to do a lot is finances is huge, right? That's one thing that we really need to put more trust with God in our finances. Huge trust, right? All of it. But one thing that I'd like to do a lot, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but one thing that I do a lot is I write down, I do a budget, right? Do a budget, and I say I'm going to do this by that. I'm going to save up X amount of money by this time. And let me tell you, folks, it never works out. Ever. Ever, 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 ever. Now, it always ends up being okay. It always ends up working out. Maybe I end up getting more money from something than I thought I was going to. But I can tell you, something always comes up to derail my budget. Now, I'm not trying to be discouraging, not trying to tell you don't make a budget. But I think that it's okay to plan ahead and do things, but you need to really let it correlate with God's, will on the situation. Let him work through that budget. And I'm still learning that, guys. It frustrates me so much. But it's like the last thing I said. Find a healthy balance between your goals, whether they're financial goals, whatever goals they may be, and his goals in your life, and see if they kind of come together, right? And there's been many other examples in my life that I can go over, but I've really just one of the things, guys, I'll say is investing in this YouTube channel. I really took my time with it, and I really just asked for God's will in the situation. There was parts of me sometimes that really just wanted to go completely all in, invest, and spend a ton of money on a bunch of stuff because I was looking at other people, and I was seeing that, hey man, they are popping off, and I know I have the potential to do it, but I had to slow it down, and I had a very strong urge that it was not the right time. And I was patient, and guess what? I met an awesome person in the YouTube comments, Chris, in Nebraska, from PA, God, I think, put him in my life for a reason. Found a mutual trust with one another. He trusted me, I trusted him, and I got a brand new computer for a price that most people would pay a lot more for, and it works awesome. And we have the upgrades to the channel. So, God worked into the situation and said, hey, I'm going to provide what you need. Just trust in me, trust in timing. Timing's another thing. Finances is another thing. Timing is another. Trust in his timing. So, that's a 40-minute banger, guys. You guys have a wonderful day. Stay safe out there. And appreciate y'all. And we'll talk soon.